Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today, we've got some very peculiar updates, ones that concern Star Wars movies, Andor Season 2, and the actor who plays Superman, David Corenswet. But before we get into it, I wanted to address something that is out of universe, something that's more personal, more on the YouTube side of things, and something which I've heard a couple of other creators talk about. If you just want the main Star Wars news topics, then just skip ahead. The timestamp should be on your screen. But I want to be candid and talk about some of the things going on at the moment. It's a very strange and I would say difficult time to be a Star Wars content creator. Other than a few rumors, there isn't much going on in the Star Wars news cycle, and unlike so much of the last 5 or 6 years, there isn't just another Disney Plus live action show right around the corner to look forward to. After Andor Season 2 came to an end, we knew there was going to be something of a drought. That's not to say there isn't anything, there are tons of books and comics. I've been talking about some of those. Star Wars Visions Volume 3 comes out sometime this autumn. There's the Maul show next year, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and Ahsoka Season 2. For an IP as big as Star Wars, the gap between Andor and I guess the next big project, which is the Mandalorian movie, is the biggest we've had pretty much since the sequels came to an end. And this naturally is going to change how fans engage with Star Wars as a fandom on the internet. Just a couple of years ago, people would be fanatical about the next big Star Wars update. You know, when are we getting the next big teaser trailer? When are we getting the next poster? When is the release date for this or that? But now that we've come to what I would say is the end of the general Disney Plus live action experiment, bar 1 or 2 projects, things have definitely changed. And from a content creator's perspective, that makes things a bit more challenging. Because in these down periods, I still want to talk about Star Wars news, but there's a lot less of it. And so when I pivot to lore or comics, what we call evergreen content, unless it's mind-blowing and concerns something recent, there's generally a lot less interest. And there are many reasons for it, especially given retcons, a general dislike for Disney canon, and also because lore and comics are not the bread and butter of this channel. I started primarily with news updates, so unless it's relevant breakdowns of recent Star Wars episodes or upcoming movies, I can understand why a lot less people are interested. I try to not let it get me down, but I do put everything into this channel, and I do it because I love it. This has literally been my dream, and I appreciate every single one of you who watches my videos. I love existing in this space. I love talking to you guys about Star Wars every day, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But it's also important that I'm still making videos that you want to see. I guess what I'm trying to say is, with this changing landscape of Star Wars YouTube, with things being quieter now that Andor's kind of died down, I want your input, because I always consider my channel as our community. But I have noticed how Star Wars YouTube has changed. We've gone through a lot of phases. The general frustration with Disney Star Wars has increased. Trends come and go, shows come and go. So ahead of the Mandalorian and Grogu, I just want to know if you guys are enjoying what I'm doing, which at the moment is covering breadcrumbs of news, any updates that come out day to day, covering a few comics here and there, just the important stuff, and occasionally making very obscure videos. Just the other day on Twitter, I teased that I want to make a Skeleton Crew video on a topic I've not seen anyone else talk about. A deeper message which, believe it or not, relates to astronomy and even UFOs. Crazy, I know, but things like that keep me inspired. And over the years, there have been a lot of videos which I never made, just because I thought they're a bit too niche or wacky, that now I think maybe is the perfect time to make them, to revisit some of those scripts and maybe turn them into full-fledged videos. So like I say, let me know down below. But now, my dear friends, with all of that out of the way, let's get on to today's topics. So this week, the big movie, the big pop culture topic has been Superman. It opened to a $217 million box office. James Gunn is incredibly happy, and it seems like apart from some controversy to do with messaging, people really love it. I can't wait to see it. And you're probably wondering, well, what has this got to do with Star Wars? Well, the main actor who plays the Superman, I'm just kidding, calm down DC fans, Superman, David Corenswet, is a huge Star Wars fan, and he can't stop talking about it. In a new interview with Vanity Fair, he expressed interest in playing a Jedi Knight. I wonder if he knows something, or if it's just a fan wish. I wonder if he might appear in Star Wars Starfighter, along with Ryan Gosling. But he's been talking a suspicious amount about the galaxy far, far away. He was promoting Battlefront 2, pushing for a third Battlefront, he gave his Star Wars rankings, his watch order, and now he's opened up about the importance of Qui-Gon Jinn. I've got a Phantom Menace video coming up for you guys, and he's been echoing some of George Lucas and Dave Filoni's talking points about the poetry of Duel of the Fates. The fight at the end of episode 1 determined the Skywalker saga, because if Qui-Gon had lived, he would have trained and nurtured Anakin in a way that would have prevented Anakin's turn to the dark side as Darth Vader. Qui-Gon believed in the boy. He believed he was the chosen one, but take a listen to what David says.
He wasn't the one who was supposed to train Anakin. That was supposed to be Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon had the experience and the instinct and frankly the love, which, in the Jedi Order is not terribly encouraged. But Qui-Gon went against the Order in feeling this great love for the kid and having this sense. And if it had been Qui-Gon, it probably would have gone better. But that said, Obi-Wan is also justified because he made a promise to his dying master.
It's so incredible hearing him nerd out like this. Just be fully immersed in the Star Wars universe. And he is right about Obi-Wan, but even George Lucas said, there is an argument to be made that Obi-Wan wasn't ready. And then there are those who say, well, you can't just blame Obi-Wan or Mace Windu or the Jedi. Anakin was doomed to fail from the start. He was taken away from his mother from a very young age. He lived the life of a slave, and now he was living with the pressure to succeed within the confines of a Jedi religion, which suppressed many of his emotions. They weren't there for him when he lost his mother, or when he feared the death of Padme. Some people argue Qui-Gon would have helped him, while others say that Anakin was always going to go down the path of darkness, and there's only so much you can blame the Jedi for. But David sure does know his stuff, so let me know down below if you want to see him in Star Wars. And so now, my dear friends, a big update for fans of Andor, because Beau Willimon, one of the most prolific writers on both seasons, has just given us a very exciting tease. He wrote the Narkina 5 arc in the first season, and in season 2 he wrote episodes 4, 5 and 6, and as I've spoken about time and again, he's also co-writing Dawn of the Jedi by James Mangold. So he's still very much involved in the Star Wars space. And in a new interview with The Playlist, he says he wants this involvement to continue. To be more specific, he wants to write a Saw Gerrera spin-off. And if you followed my coverage of Andor, then you know I'm a massive Saw Gerrera fan. Whether it's Andor, The Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, Fallen Order, Rogue One, Saw is one of the most complicated and misunderstood anti-heroes in the entire franchise. And Beau Willimon is the one who wrote his famous monologue in season 2, the one about Rhydonium that he says to Wilmon Pack. And by the way, my friends, Beau was asked about the name connection. Was Wilmon Pack named after Beau Willimon? The answer appears to be no, just a coincidence. But I love that Beau says he wants to do this, because while Saw Gerrera dies on Jeddah in Rogue One, he was originally meant to survive the events of the movie. But because he died, if we do now get a Saw spin-off, it has to be a prequel. And there are different periods of the timeline they could set this in. They could make it about Saw establishing himself on Jeddah, as the Andor Season 2 finale set up, basically an adaptation of the comics, taking place over the days before Rogue One, how he meets Baze Malbus and Shiru Timway, or maybe the show could take place when he's still with Jyn Erso, her childhood, and leading up to her imprisonment. But I think Beau's point is how fascinating Saw Gerrera is. Even if he's not serious about this suggestion, Willimon continues, when you get to write something for Forrest Whitaker, you can take it in any direction. You can pretty much give the guy a phone book, and it's going to be great. The Rhydonium monologue is so genius because it starts off really slow. It takes its time to build up. Saw talks about his days in the jungle on Andor, how he became addicted to Rhydonium in the first place. And by the end, when he tells Wilmon that he needs to be present, because he's not with Luthen, he's with Saw Gerrera's partisans who are much wilder in their philosophy, and then you just get to let those fireworks go. Beau was then asked about Dawn of the Jedi, and he can't say anything, but good news, my friends, writing's going really well. And he says, quote, I can only go as far as to say that James Mangold and I have been working on the script for some time, so I'm still in the Star Wars universe. So excited for what comes of that. And finally, my friends, Tony Gilroy gave us a bit of an update. So he's been reflecting on his work on both Rogue One and Andor, and he was asked a very interesting question. If he could choose one character from the Disney Plus show he would retcon into the movie, who would it be? And I thought he gave the best answer possible. He says, I'd want Vel there for sure. My god, think of Vel's take on Jyn Erso. I'm sure she'd have some very choice things to say about her. And fans are a bit divided on his response. A lot of people said, what about Clea? She was the last survivor of Axis. Wouldn't you want her in the movie instead? Vel, Clea, both amazing characters. But inadvertently, Tony's comments answer a question that some Andor fans have had for a few months. How many of these characters who weren't in the movie were conceptualized beforehand? As in, did he think of these characters and they were left out, or were they specifically created for the show? The answer is the latter. Vel was not someone who existed, even in his mind, in 2016. But those are some of the most recent updates, my dear friends. Share your thoughts in the comments down below.